All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us again. This is probably way quicker of a cadence than the last 8 months that you've seen me on these Golden Dunkers lives. But welcome to another episode of Golden Dunkers Live. Today's guest, very special guest, someone a lot of Gopher fans that have just seen teams recently. They've seen this guy a lot, which is really cool to have and to show a new perspective. So without further ado, let's just welcome Mr. Michael Hurt. What's going on, Mike?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me.
For
Glad to be
sure,
here.
for sure. Well, first off, dope jacket, obviously. But Mike,
Appreciate it.
let's let's go ahead and start. What's going on with you right now? It's been about a year since Gopher fans have seen you, so I'm sure they're wondering
hmm
what happens that first year removed from college basketball, especially being one of the weirder years right now. So let's just talk a little bit about what's going on with you right now.
Yeah. So I originally I graduated in 3 years. So my last year eligibility, I started the HR/IR program, Human Resources program, over at Carlson. So I started that for my last year eligibility, and so it was a 2 year program. So I was starting that anyway. So I was already going to plan on doing grad school when things finished. So kind of rewinding back to March, when everything kind of got weird, and we were all sent home. I was just doing school from home. My brother got sent home. The whole family was back here in Rochester, so I was just kind of living from home for most of the summer, and just I had an internship over the summer over at Jack Links for human resources. So I did that for about 12 weeks, and now I'm back. I'm doing the full time MBA program. I know Andre is one of my classmates. So I'm a full time student in both the human resources and the MBA program. But yeah, no, I'm excited about it. Get both degrees here in about a year and a half. So
Yeah,
yeah, and I'm excited for what's moving forward.
for sure, for sure. Well, it seems like you're out of it, but you're not completely out of it yet. You got about a year and
Yeah.
a half, and you'll figure out what's gonna happen. I mean, for anybody listening, for anybody curious, is there anything you're looking to do specifically with your MBA? Were there goals going into it, or what does that look like for you going forward?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just trying to kind of figure that out right now a little bit. Kind of figure out what my interests are. I mean, getting my MBA, I really want to take the skills that I've, the leadership and kind of those softer skills that you learn from playing college athletics, and really transition into the business workplace, and being able to be a leader. So I think an MBA works really well with that, and I think I want to end up getting back somewhere into healthcare, just because being around Rochester, the Mayo Clinic's very very big around here, and I don't think I necessarily Mayo Clinic's necessarily the place I want to be, but healthcare is something that I've always been really passionate about. So hopefully if I can take some of those leadership skills into that industry, I think that's probably something I want to do moving forward.
Definitely, for sure. I mean, in Rochester, you're breathing everything that's Mayo Clinic down there. So
Yeah.
comes across again. But quick, great
hmm
transition. Let's take a step back. Let's rewind. We're in the now. Let's go back to the past. How you even
hmm
had the M on your chest. So let's just talk a little bit, man, about just growing up, really from childhood, how the ball got in your hands, and then just being in the Minnesota hoops scene in general. So just take me back, man. Obviously, your family is a basketball family, it seems like, right? So how did
Yeah.
you even start? Like, just talk to me a little bit about just coming up in the scene and really where it began.
Yeah, I think a lot of the work ethic and everything that kind of has driven me and my family kind of started with my dad. He was my coach from a really young age,
Mhm.
and he coached me all throughout youth, all the way up until high school. He coached me and my brother, and he was a big influence on me. Really taking up basketball. I played basketball, but I also played baseball and soccer. And baseball was something I actually liked a lot better, but I was just a lot better at basketball, and it was something that through being able to play for my dad, it was something that I knew that I was good at, but it was something I also started to fall in love with a lot more. And yeah, I guess I didn't really kind of I didn't really expect. I didn't see kind of the trajectory that maybe a lot of people saw. I mean, I knew that going from kind of getting into that eighth grade range, going into high school the next year, I knew I could maybe make the varsity team, and I didn't really have too high of expectations. Like, again, thinking like more down the line towards college, and I made the varsity team my freshman year, and I got to come off the bench. I was second or third guy off the bench, and I really learned a lot from a lot of upperclassmen I had, and ended up making a big jump in between my freshman and sophomore year. AAU was a big opportunity for me. I played for D1 Minnesota, which is one of the local AAU teams around here.
Mhm.
That plays on a national circuit, and yeah, no, it was a huge eye-opening experience, I guess, playing on that circuit. Seeing that I really could play with a lot of dudes, and it helped me. I came back my sophomore year and was able to start, and kind of took off from there.
For sure. You play with D1 your whole time? D1 Minnesota?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I played with D1 my whole time. I think I played well. Yeah, I think all throughout high school I did. I played with Minnesota Fury for a year or two,
mhm.
seventh or eighth grade. But yeah, for my whole time in high school, I was with D1.
Yeah, for sure. So you just pretty much in Minnesota, you choose one of them. One of the three.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Squad.
pretty
Who's on
much.
that D1 squad? I mean, I'm trying to remember during that time.
Oof. I mean, my 16U team was probably the best team that I played on. We had Gonar Mar, who's down at Northern Iowa. We had Jack Sorensen. I think he's out at American, maybe.
Mhm.
Um, Man, I'm trying to think. Luke Harris played for Northfield. He went to
Yeah.
Duluth, I believe. Trenton Krieger played, uh, college ball at I think Bethel. So yeah, we had some
Mhm.
guys that played a day Murky.
Yeah,
He played at Denver, and
that bounce.
yeah, so
Yeah.
he's got crazy bounce. Played
Yeah.
with Vinny Shahid, my 17 year.
Mhm.
He's played for North Dakota State. So yeah, I played with a lot of guys that have played locally at the collegiate level. So yeah, it was kind of cool to play with all of them, and kind of see how their careers have all kind of panned out too.
For sure, for sure. Tell me a little bit about just then in general. You talked about D1 Minnesota and saying I can play with these guys, right? And this is a conversation like I like to have. You being in Minnesota, playing predominantly Minnesota teams, Minnesota high school teams, like how important is it for a recruit to play AAU basketball to get a different feel? And not really all recruits, but specifically Minnesota, just because there's that weird rule where you can't leave during the high school season.
Yeah, I think that that's really it helps the your recruitment, just because it's an opportunity for coaches to really come and see you.
Mhm.
Because I mean, during the high school season, I mean, would it probably be easier for Coach Pete? It probably isn't, because he's so
Right.
focused on his own team. So it's a time where things are much easier for the college team. So it's obviously an easier time to get in front of people, but it's also an opportunity to play against people that you wouldn't normally get to play against. And I think it's a lot easier to see the cream of the crop kind of rises when you're playing against all those high level competitors, and you can really see who stands out. And I think it's easier for the college coaches to also evaluate that too. So
You're right.
yeah, I think it's very, very important. I mean, I think some people love it, some people hate it, but it's kind of just become it is what it is. It's very
Mhm.
necessary for kids to understand where they are, and if they want to get recruited, it's the best way to do it.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely like some people hate it, some people love it. Obviously, a lot
Yeah,
of opinions. I'm indifferent, right? Like I don't need anything
right.
extra, but the idea of seeing all the competition is huge. I think you raised a good point. Like with Coach Patino during the season, like I always thought it was weird back when we had a game and then he'd go recruit across the country and be back for practice the next day, or we
Yeah.
practice later in the day because he was traveling that morning or something.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, the idea of needing coaches to recruit during that season, it's almost like their head's not even completely there. It's like I worry about
Yeah.
their entire job here. So yeah, that's interesting, man. So one more thing before we get into kind of the Gopher current days or when you played with the Gophers, but coming up into the Gophers, like I remember the name a little bit when I was
Hmm.
there. A lot of us remember that. I don't know if you remember the Gopher team camps at all, but I think that's when we first kind of laid eyes on you and Little Bro as well. And I remember
Hmm.
that very, very, very clearly. You guys coming from Rochester, coming up
Yeah.
and just talking a little bit about that. And I remember those team camps, man. It was some competition.
Yeah.
Like
No, there
looking
was some.
back on it, like we had, I mean, Apple Valley's there, little Gary's there, Trey. Like who? I mean, do you
Yeah.
remember those? I'm trying to remember clearly because you really know who you're playing against those. But there was some competition. But talk a little bit about those Gopher team camps because I know a lot of people
Yeah.
don't know much about those team camps that often happen.
Yeah, I think people don't really understand team camps. It's a huge opportunity for coach to really get their eyes on a lot of the local recruits, because it's, I mean, it's essentially a round robin with a lot of the local teams, and it's an opportunity for us because we're doing the scoreboards for all the games to kind of really get a evaluate and kind of see those guys too.
Right.
And it's yeah, it's a really cool opportunity for that to happen, and it was one where I think they Coach Ben Johnson, who's now at Xavier, he was the one that recruited me the most. Or he started out recruiting me initially, and then he ended up moving on. But I think the biggest thing that he had seen me play a couple times, but that was where I really kind of showed my best stuff. I can't remember who we were playing against
Yeah.
in the old practice facility, but I had like 5 or 6, 7 threes in a game, and I just couldn't miss that half in one particular half, and then that was kind of where my recruitment started to really pick up because I had a couple offers at that point. I had some of the smaller mid majors. I had Davidson, Northern Iowa, Bucknell. So a lot of those kind of those smaller schools that were looking at me at that point, and then that's kind of where definitely piqued Coach P's interest, and then some other schools started to follow suit after that.
For sure. No, yeah, those are some loaded camps. And yeah, you did ball. I remember that. You pro
Mhm.
ball. Apple Valley was stacked, obviously, with trade.
Yeah,
I
man, they were so
I
good.
think Al was there. I think Jar
Yeah.
was there. Sack. Like
Hmm.
it was some.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because you see those guys how far like everyone's careers has gone. Like, I mean, if you think about it, those guys were all in the same gym, the same area for a weekend, and they were all coming from the state of Minnesota, which is just so crazy to think about, and how how great basketball is in Minnesota. It's just it speaks volumes to the community.
For sure. I think that's one of those things where obviously the talk right now is how Minnesota basketball is growing. And it's like for me, it's not that surprising just because like you
Yeah,
like seeing it from that time, you could just see the progression and just see the talent overall across the board just be way better. Just be way better.
yeah,
So yeah, I want to talk just a little bit about that just recruitment process. Was it Ben Johnson the main one recruiting you during that time, or who was that kind of guy?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, so Ben for people that didn't know, Ben was kind of in charge for a lot of the local kids. So he recruited all the guys that went to De La Salle. He recruited
right.
all of those guys that came from Minnesota, and just recruited Mir as well. But yeah, he was super cool guy. I mean, he was one of my favorite assistant coaches to be around. He knew a lot about the game, and
Mhm.
was always willing to explain anything if I didn't really understand what the point of a drill was, or like what we were trying to get out of a play or a scheme that we were
Mhm.
setting up. So yeah, he was just a guy that I really connected with early on in my recruitment process.
Yeah, he was definitely somebody just very chill, right?
Yeah,
Very good tone, very approachable. Like I
for
think it's
sure.
super important, and I think you understand too. Like coaching the dynamics, having a lot of different dynamics. And I remember Ben
Yeah,
was always a great dynamic, just a breather, a breath of fresh air.
for sure.
Because usually coaches are huh, huh, huh. And Ben Johnson was like, "Come here, let's talk, man." Like right,
We can talk. Yeah, we can talk.
we can talk. We can talk. Well, let's talk a little bit, not just about Ben Johnson, but really the head honcho, Coach Pitino.
Hmm.
So I want to talk about playing for Coach P.
Yeah.
You were somebody that got trusted early. You were around the team. I pay attention to who's involved and who's really paying attention on the court. And you were probably one of the more involved people I've seen in like the last 10 years, like literally since I've been there. And that's huge. And I think that's just a tribulation to how connected you and Coach Pitino probably were. And like he trusted you to lead people and tell people where to go. So I just want to talk a little bit about Coach Pitino's relationship with you and how that kind of transgressed throughout the years.
Yeah, so I connected with them, pretty early on after I'd talked to Ben for a while, and
Mhm.
he kind of didn't offer me, initially after the team camp, but he kind of wanted to see me play a little bit more, but I knew that I was definitely on his radar, and he ended up offering me later in the summer, and it was one of those things that I knew, especially just being around here during the team camp, being up here on unofficial visits, came to the TCU game, which is a crazy game, football game that
Yeah.
I was able to attend, and it was something that I didn't feel that I didn't get on campus at other places, and it always kind of felt like home.
Mhm.
And for myself, it really was one of those things where I couldn't imagine myself going anywhere, and it was I felt like I had a good relationship with Coach P, and I felt comfortable around him and the coaching staff, and Yeah, so I ended up committing early to him. I think it was my junior year. So it was like mid high school season of my junior year that I ended up committing, and it was yeah, it was just one of those things. I felt really comfortable. I felt like he was somebody who was very honest and direct with kind of where he stood with them, which is something that
Mhm.
I've always appreciated in leadership. I think it's important to know where you stand with somebody and
Right.
where they see your strengths and weaknesses being. So yeah, I think it was just something where I felt early on that was it was a good feel for me, but it was also the community and the campus itself was just something that felt like home to me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, a little more into those days and just playing for the Gophers. Let's just talk a
Yeah.
little bit about during that time. So you played with a lot of different guys.
Hmm.
You played with some talented guys along the way. Who would you say was probably the person that kind of maybe helped you the most, impacted you the most, or just kind of was your go-to in the most situations throughout the years? And it could be a couple.
Um, Damn, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Hmm. I
And
would
I
say
know
there's a couple.
like you, because you were a connector of the team. You know what I mean? Like, so you
Yeah,
connect.
I would say early on it was at least my freshman year was Akeem Springs. So he was a grad transfer from Milwaukee, and a lot of Gopher fans know him for you know, the game against Indiana, having the game winner against them, and you know, being an incredible shooter. And but he was an incredible leader. He was my roommate on the road.
Mhm.
He was very influential to me in just showing how to, you know, how to work very hard and kind of lead by example, but also, you know, when you need to, you know, kind of speak your presence and let everyone know what you're thinking. You know, he showed exactly how to do that. And yeah, I think he was just a very exemplary leader for our team, and it was something that I, you know, was just trying to be a sponge and learn as much as possible from him.
I feel like anytime there's a 4 year or 5th year transfer that comes over, that's just they come with a whole different, approach to the game.
Yeah, I think they, you know, it's kind of those like those guys that just, I've been here before, and this
Mhm.
is what we got to do. Like they know how these things go. They know, you know, the ups and downs of the season, and what you got to do in certain situations. And yeah, it's just kind of a veteran feel that you get. And he really, you know, kind of presented that vibe to the whole team.
Yeah, I think that's huge in recruiting. I think you've got to have
Yeah,
a coach that can go out and get at least 1 or 2 of those guys every year, and like not just because you didn't get the top 5 or 6 recruit. Right? It's like the same.
right,
The NBA team goes out and gets a vet minimum contract just to bring them in for the rookies. Like I think it's kind of similar
for sure.
situation. Like you've got to have those guys. It's huge during that time.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, you know, they look at the numbers and you know, that's what they kind of equate to your value and what you bring to the team. But that kind of leadership, you know, no matter what Akeem's stats were, you know, that leadership that he brought was something that, you know, was you couldn't really put that value in the box score.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's definitely very underrated that, you know, a lot of head coaches and players understand the value of it, but maybe
Yeah.
not a lot of people on the outside may not, you know, see it on the surface.
Exactly. It's not apples to apples at all. At
For
all.
sure.
So no, that's a good way to put it. Well, around those Gopher times, man, you had some good players. Like you had some good players. Were you a freshman when Nate was still there?
Yeah, Nate was. Yep.
So you were a freshman
He
when
was a
Nate
junior, I think. Yeah,
was
he was a junior.
junior, so really coming to his own. And then Amir as
Yep.
well.
Mir came in with me the same year.
Yeah, so I mean,
Um,
you had some guys early on. Let's just talk about that squad because that squad went to the tourney. You made a tourney appearance.
yeah,
Well, I mean, talk a little bit about that squad. What differentiated that squad? Let before I forget anything, Jordan Murphy as well. But
yeah. I mean, it was crazy just how much talent we had. You know, it was interesting because a lot of people were very down on the team. You know, from the year before, they were very young. I think it was Dupree and Nate's sophomore year, so they
Mhm.
were kind of, you know, coming into their own. It was kind of their team. They were struggling a little bit, but you could see that they were, you know, they were within 5 points every single game. Like they were there. It was just kind of, you know, if you clean up a few things here and there, they're winning all of those games. And so it was one of those things I didn't really feel like worried about it at all. I knew that we had a lot of talent. We were bringing a lot of guys back. We got Reggie Lynch as a transfer, who was, you know, a very talented shot blocker. So yeah,
Mhm.
it was crazy how much talent we had, and we knew that, you know, if we were just a very disciplined team, we had the talent to beat almost anybody.
Yeah. No, that team was good. It was really
For
good.
sure.
Did you expect to make the tourney? What was like? Do you remember the mindset?
Yeah.
You're coming off a
I
tough.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's true. I think I honestly felt pretty good about making the tourney, very early on. We beat some pretty good teams. We beat I think St. John's. We beat Arkansas in the non-conference, and we knew those things matter on Selection Sunday. So we knew going into conference play that we could really make a statement, because the Big Ten's always been a very very solid conference when it comes to the national perspective. And yeah, we had a little rough patch, I think in December and January, where we had lost, 5 out of 7, maybe something like that. But again, it was all really, really close games, and we kind of, had a couple team meetings like, hey, we don't want this to be something like last year, where we're letting these games slip away at the end when we know that we have them. And we really kind of righted that ship, and we won every game in February, which is I guess I've never heard of that before, especially in the Big Ten with a lot of teams that we beat, and we beat them in a lot of close games. And
I
yeah, I
know you.
guess that just gave. I think it just gave us more confidence to like be able to play in those late game situations when there's only 1 to 2 possessions and you have to get a bucket and a stop. Like those are the situations I think that we were just very prepared for at that point. And yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, I never really kind of swayed from the fact that we were gonna make the tournament.
Yeah. No, that's it. I did not know you guys did not. I mean, you won out in February. That's
Yeah,
tough.
but
I
yeah,
don't
it's
mean.
it's so crazy to think about. We didn't. I don't even think it was maybe until like the last game or two in February we were like, dang, we actually just won every game in February. We're looking back at the teams that we beat. It was so crazy to think about, a couple ranked teams, and we're like, man, that's kind of crazy to think about. So yeah,
I think Coach P does a really good job just portraying it as one game at a time. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You don't realize that you've been going in it.
Yeah, I think he does a great job of that. I know he always has the GAs and the assistant coaches. They're always thinking a couple days in advance
Right.
of schemes, but he does a great job keeping the team very focused on this is the task at hand,
Hmm.
and nothing else matters at this point. So let's go get this one. And it
Yeah.
was it was just rinse and repeat for that, and it worked. It was very very important for us to not get too high or too low. So when we did have that little losing spell, we never were really too down on ourselves. We were still confident in our ability to make plays. It was just about making a few adjustments and going from there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about a few more teammates then. So you had Amir, Clipper, right?
Hmm.
Like Clipper, a little older though. So I mean, you were there, but you were there. But then you also have another guy, Daniel Oturu, who is
Hmm.
a current Clipper, and I would say, I mean, you were there telling him more so what to do a lot of the places. I mean,
Yeah.
dunked on you a couple of times, but shoot, you like told him what to do. But let's just talk a little bit about
Right.
Daniel's game and what you saw. I mean, Gopher fans, I feel like when you saw Dan last year, he almost did a little bit of everything. So I want to use you to really pin down really
Yeah.
what was the biggest strength. What did you see from Daniel Turu that everybody really doesn't always see every day, or maybe you do see it, but it's like the reason that separated him from other guys during that
Yeah.
time.
Yes. Yeah. So I think maybe going back to his freshman year, everyone saw that he was very talented. I was our junior year team. We went to the tournament. We beat Louisville, and obviously Murph was a big part of that. Dupree was a very big part of that. As well as Nate. And I think it was just one of those situations where it was, I saw the talent, I saw what he had, and he was somebody that could hit a jump shot. He had the post moves down low, and it was just kind of more just getting him comfortable in those situations to be the guy making the plays, making the playmaking, not only for himself but for others. And I think that was the biggest thing that caused his jump his sophomore year was his ability to create for himself, but then also create for others. I mean, he was getting double teams left and right from every single team against a lot of the bigs in the Big Ten who were all great defenders, but they still had to double because he still was able to find ways to score for himself, even knowing the double team is coming. And that just kind of speaks volumes to his ability his confidence his confidence in all aspects of his game. That whether it's shooting the ball, driving a big on a closeout, or getting somebody in the post. I think his confidence at all three levels really helped him kind of make that big jump that really separated him from a lot of people.
I feel it. I feel it. Let's put NBA scout hat on for a little bit. So we're kind of visualizing Dan and his role over the next 4 or 5 years in the league, because you had a front row seat with this. What type of player would you like to see Dan become at the next level, or what type of player at least do you see him inserting himself at the NBA level? Is it a lot of similar game, or what pieces of the game do you think will really start to jump out?
Yeah, so I think obviously, being on the Clippers, they're a championship level team. It's gonna be hard for him to get some minutes this year. But the biggest thing that I try to tell him, and I think he really understands this, is he needs to learn as much as he can from a lot of these veterans. And I think one guy he could learn a lot from, especially on his team, is Serge Ibaka, who's somebody that for Thunder has always been very he was known for a huge shot blocker. Wasn't as much very skilled or refined, but he was a huge shot blocker, could finish around the rim. And, for somebody like Dan, I think he has that shot blocking ability. He can score in a lot of different ways, much like Serge can now. So I think he's somebody that he could definitely learn a lot from, and how to have a prolonged NBA career, because, when Serge started to get a little bit older, he's not as much blocking shots. He's much more about the skills, being able to hit a jumper, being able to take somebody in the post and finish. So I think that's somebody that Dan could really, learn a lot from, and I'm hoping that he, kind of, tries to shadow Serge as much as he can, because I think he's a perfect example of somebody that Dan could learn a lot from, and it will help him, help him in his career for sure.
Definitely. I think the smart Surge has an experience mixed with Dan's, like when he first came as a freshman, literally natural talent. Like he just has a lot of natural. I think that mixed with just learning, that's going to be huge for him. I think that's a great call out with Surge. I didn't think about that's going to be huge for him. You got to stay close. Dan, whenever you hear this, man, you stay close, bro. that's got to be huge. It's got to be huge. Before we kind of get away from those times playing with those guys, it might be a tournament, but let's talk about just a favorite time, favorite memory. It might be on the court, it might be off the court, but what's just a Gopher moment that really jumps out to you? Because a few should jump your head right away.
Yeah, I think the one that really jumps out to me is the NCAA tournament my junior year against Louisville. That would probably be moment number one, just because and didn't get to play the rest of the game. And so I went in at the 4, and was obviously a little bit undersized compared to some of Louisville's guys. But again, it was one of those things where I wasn't producing as much on the box score, but I was playing some real solid defense, and we were on a run when I got in there. And Gabe was on fire. Amir was killing. And I think I got an offensive rebound off a shot when we were on like a 10-0 run, and I kicked it back out to Gabe for 3, and I think a lot of Gopher fans remember that. The ones that were there, it was the loudest arena I've ever been in when that happened. I think it helped a lot. We were playing in Des Moines, so it was the NCAA tournament, but it was a Gopher home game, because Gopher fans travel real well. And it was just such a cool moment. Once Gabe hit that 3, me and Dan are kind of yelling at him, hyping him up, and Gabe's always been kind of calm, and I think that was just one of the coolest moments, was being a part of a team that not only went to the tournament but was able to win a game. Because I can't remember the last time a team had won an NCAA tournament game. So it just kind of, it felt like kind of a culmination of the hard work and kind of working off the shoulders of the program that guys like you, guys like Nate, and others have really built to get us back to that moment, to make the tournament and to win a game. And we want to kind of keep that expectation rolling.
That's huge. Yeah, you can't go these years or too long stints without making a tourney.
For sure.
It's like one of the first just initial thoughts when recruiting somebody, when they make the tourney last, or do we see them in the tournament? That's definitely some motivation. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the past team, but really someone that's jumped into this current Gophers team. So before we even talk about the Gophers team as a whole, let's just talk about one particular person that I think a lot of Gopher fans have been fond of this year, Marcus Carr. I think that's a conversation that people probably are very interested in because you had a front row seat to see Marcus. You saw him his redshirt year. I remember coming to practice, and he was still like a starting point guard that year, like on the gold team, maroon team, but he just didn't play that year. And I remember Coach Pete then was like, man, this guy, he's a gamer. So I knew from the day one he was like that. But can you explain, or at least try to explain, what is it about Marcus Carr? Why is it so hard for people simply to guard the man? Like, we know he's trying to be a bucket. It's been since last year, but why can't people guard him?
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things where people will look at him like, okay, he's not Russell Westbrook fast, like he's not super fast, but he's so shifty in his ability to get by guys and take advantage if someone's in a bad defensive position, that he's able to get to the rim, and he's got a million moves around the rim. I mean, we saw him in the previous game with some of his finishes at the rim, but he's got every floater. He can finish with both hands. And I think he really embraces the contact, and that's huge when you're playing in the Big Ten, because I mean it's a very, very physical league. If you go down there soft, you're gonna get it beat up. So I think that was one of the biggest things that was a necessary thing, and I think he's become a better shooter, over these years. I mean, I think he's always been a good shooter, but he's showing that he can really shoot the ball, and even those ones that are very high degree of difficulty that a lot of coaches probably don't want their players taken. I have total confidence in him taking them, because he's a guy that feels very, again, it kind of goes back to that confidence and that comfort that he has with taking those difficult shots. So yeah, I think it's a combination of being able to really embrace that contact and know how to use it to your advantage. I mean, he's a guy that you know I think he's probably top 5, top 10 in the country, in free throw attempts, because he just knows how to attack people.
Yeah.
So it's either you get out of his way or you're going to foul him. There's no other option. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think he's just a guy that has really really shown more people what he has. He's always had this. It's just he's kind of gotten to a point now where everyone's getting to see his full game.
Yeah. No, he definitely has always had that. Like, you can't teach him.
Yeah.
You can't teach some of the stuff he has. But yeah, it's really impressive. Just what he's able to do. He's putting on one of the best seasons we've seen, probably, from a Gopher in general, not even just guard, a Gopher in general, Big Ten player in general. I mean, a lot of people have just been talking about.
For sure.
It's pretty impressive. Let's talk a little bit. I mean, he's the catalyst, but the entire team in general, I mean, it's not a lot of new guys on the roster. So it's a lot of guys that are impacting that was there with you last year. And just to set the record straight, I mean, if you're listening to this, it'd be crazy if you didn't know Michigan State took a fat L against the Gophers last night. Emphasize fat, meaning there was a large against Michigan State. And so it looks like Gophers playing Bucky, University of Wisconsin, on Thursday. And so this Gophers team, if they could beat Wisconsin, they have a chance to be a top 10 team pretty much in the country. But for this season, if you told me this Gophers team are going to be a top 10 team in the country, I'd probably be like, ooh, that's going to be tough. If you ask Coach Pitino, I probably think he would say the same thing. So, like, you've seen all these games. You've been very close. Let's talk about the team as a whole. Like, what do you like about them? Is it something that's happened halfway through the season? Do you think they've been ready for this since last season? What do you really think?
Yeah, I think it might have been the St. Louis game that they really kind of took off. And I think Coach P had tweeted about this, and they showed it during the broadcast yesterday, was the ability for them to pass the ball. When they pass the ball and really move it, and you don't have to rely on Marcus to try and play make everything, and everyone can be a playmaker and a catalyst. Everyone's going to benefit from that. And I think the other thing was their ability to really kind of be a sponge when it comes to the defensive scheme. So, like, you go back to the Iowa game. I mean, I can just imagine Coach Conroy going through the film, or one of the other assistant coaches on what the scheme is, and those guys really like soaked that all up and really executed it perfectly. And I think they did the same thing last night with Michigan State. So I think that's another huge thing, is their ability to really soak up the game plans that the coaches want them to do, and following through with it on defense. And then offense, they're understanding that the more ball movement you have, and you don't just have to rely on Marcus to go make a play, because he's exceptionally talented. Everyone can kind of create plays and take a little pressure off him. And if he just has to make a catch and shoot three, that probably makes his job a little bit easier. So yeah, I think a little bit of balance of both, offense and defense has really helped, at least change the outlook, I think, for a lot of Gopher fans on this season.
Yeah. And I think it's tough when you have a guy like that that's just going off. You know, what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like you want to feed it to him, you want to get it to him, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard because
right.
other when they do key in on him, it's like these other guys, are they ready? Are they ready to go? I mean, you think that
Yeah.
would be something they need to figure out before the end of the season, or what does that look like for them right now? Because I mean, guys are ready. Guys are ready, but
Mhm.
what do they have to do to ensure it's not just the Marcus Carr show?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a balance. Kind of what you talked about. Marcus is very very talented, and you gotta take advantage of that as much as you can. When he's got mismatches, or if we think we can take advantage of a particular team we're going against. But it's also if they're committing two, three, four guys to him, and forcing him to pass someone else to create and play and make. you know, it, Again, it kind of goes back to kind of soaking up what the coaching staff is giving them, and being a sponge and really trying to execute that game plan. If they know, like, hey, this team's going to double and triple team Marcus, you got to be ready to shoot. So I think those guys are doing the necessary things. If the guy knows that he's going to get 5, 6, 7 shots as opposed to one or two, getting those extra shots up, getting that extra work, and I think that all kind of starts with Marcus's leadership and his approach to the game. So yeah, I think it'll be a balance between Marcus showing his talents, but also those guys understanding that, hey, these guys know Marcus is talented. They're going to try and take him out of it. If they try to overcommit to him, it's on you. Let's see what you got. It's your time to show something.
No, yeah, for sure. And I know I think the coaches, the players, they're not dumb. They know that what we just talked about, that's something they need to figure out too. So
For
it'll be
sure.
exciting to see that, and hopefully fans kind of now take that visual too and going and looking at the games, because yeah, it will be important. Like at this point, we know what Marcus can do. So the focus of the season now is like, how do we really create that balanced attack, right? Like, how do
Hmm.
we really make everybody be a huge part of this offense? Back when it was the original Warriors days, when it was just Steph. Like, how bring it together and make everybody a part of it? How do we turn Draymond into a point forward? You know what I mean? Not you.
Right.
So I think like that's gonna be what these guys gonna do this year. New roles, changing rules, all that.
Well, and I think those guys, I think they're all capable of it. I think, like, guys like Booth, guys like Gabe, like those guys are veterans. Obviously Booth coming from Utah. I think those guys are guys that have shown in the past that they can definitely do that. It's just if a team really tries to scout and cut off Marcus and Gabe, Brandon, like Brandon, for example, was somebody that Iowa wasn't really closing out on,
Right.
and they were really trying to hone in on Marcus, and especially down the stretch and in overtime. And Marcus was like, okay, I totally trust my guy over there, Brandon, hitting all those corner threes. So
Mhm.
yeah, I think it's just Marcus is always going to make the right play, um, and that's a great luxury to have, because not a lot of coaches or fans can say that they have a point guard that they really trust like that.
Yeah, no, he's becoming almost unstoppable, and it's just fun to watch, uh, and fun to watch him just control the team. But yeah, I wanted to talk about this current Gopher team, about the two guys you actually just mentioned. Booth, obviously being somebody that, I mean, he's got a lot of talent. Like I saw that man come in high school, obviously. Then when he's at Utah, he came in and did some work in the barn. So it's one of those things where Booth is a player as well as Gabe is a player. Like they can go. But again, when you have a guy that's playing like an All-American, especially at the college level, where you're still learning the game and learning how to find yours. I just want to talk a little bit about both of their games and how we can really elevate those two. Like what does it need to be to get Gabe in his right spots for his shot, to get him back into those real hot days that you talk about, right? Or how can we get Booth going like we
Hmm.
saw him before? Because I think both of those guys are playing. Like they're playing well, but like you
Yeah,
said, I've seen those guys play at a very high level, both of them.
for sure.
And when I think about Gabe, Booth, and Marcus, all three playing at their highest level, this is a top 5 team. So I want to really talk about what is it you think really specifically those two we can do to elevate, because they have the experience and they have the ability.
Yeah, I think that it's something that I'm not as worried about right now personally, just because I know that Coach P talks about it a lot, trying to peak at the right time of the year, peaking in February. So I think it's something that they're going to really they're going to really be able to find out. I mean, I think a lot of those non-conference games, it's kind of more just go out there and play. And now you're playing against real deal teams, because every night is going to be a war. It's going to be a battle, and I think that they're going to really be able to find themselves. There's going to be some games where Marcus might be struggling, and somebody else has got to step up. Whether it's Gabe, whether it's Booth, whether it's Brandon or Liam or whoever it is. So I think they're going to be able to find themselves throughout the year, and really be able to step up in moments where if Marcus isn't having the best game, they're gonna have to step up, and I think they will.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that's important, even for fans to know that
Mhm.
point in when it's time to peak is the right time usually. And that's what Coach Pete does. I do remember him talking about that a lot, and I think that is important. And I think there has been a lot of
Yeah,
non-conference games. There has been a lot going on. I can't even imagine right now, man, when it comes just to the mental of dudes right now. Like, I don't know. I just feel like when we play, when you have your off nights, when you have your off days, you can go somewhere and just escape. But like, it's almost like they can't escape anymore. And you unfortunately, you got a little piece of this too. Just to end your season, obviously last season. But I just wanted to
hmm
talk a little bit about not just the mental of these athletes, but I don't know how you feel just their deal and their conversation just about this COVID pandemic, everything that's happened. I mean, first of all, sorry for the end of your season, but yeah, I mean, you can start with that
yeah,
and talk about these guys and what they're going through.
yeah. So I mean, just kind of going back to the end of our season, it was kind of crazy how it all happened. We were at the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis, and we heard some rumblings of I think it had been a week or two before that the cruise ship was off the coast in San Francisco, with the people that all had COVID, and I guess it was just something that we never really. I don't think a lot of us really processed it. It was already here, like it was already in the community. It was one of those things that we didn't really process, and we were like, oh, it's just COVID's kind of over there. We're gonna, we'll be fine. And it kind of really escalated the night before we were going to play Iowa, and there was talk that they're going to call off the Big Ten tournament. They were going to call off a lot of the other conference tournaments, and then we saw Fred Hoiberg, who was Nebraska's coach. He was, very very ill on the sideline the game after
Yeah.
us. So we didn't have any fans or no, we did have fans because we were a first round game in the Big Ten tournament. But then they announced while we were warming up that there weren't going to be fans the next day. So our parents were like, "Oh, what are they going to do now?" So it was very eerie feeling when they announced that during the first Big Ten tournament game against Northwestern. But we ended up, just kind of going about our business, trying to, prepare as much as we could. We were getting ready for Iowa, kind of blocking out the noise until otherwise, and then, early morning before we were going to play Iowa, they called it off, and we were I don't know, it just kind of it never it still hasn't fully set in. I think for a lot of people, when you get that last game, unless you win the tournament, you usually end on a loss, and you have that feel of okay, this is the end of that chapter, and you get that closure. And I just don't think we really got that, which I mean is unfortunate. It kind of is what it is, but I always tell people I made it to 2 out of 3 NCAA tournaments, so it's better than 2 out of 4.
Yeah,
But
you better protect.
yeah, I just think it was one of those things. It was kind of a weird ending. It wasn't necessarily like sad or anything. It was kind of shock, I guess. But yeah, for the guys currently kind of going through this, I've talked to a lot of them. It is hard, like you said. I mean, you can't go and hang around all your friends that aren't on the basketball team. You gotta kind of stick with the guys to you know really make sure that you don't get COVID or bring it into the program. So, talking to my brother, talking to, a lot of the guys in the Gophers, Eric and, Marcus and some of those guys, it's hard. It's hard because, for you, I know that, around winter break when nobody's on campus, that's kind of the feel that they get, but it's all year round. It's kind of a weird feeling to have. But that's why you got to really rely on your teammates to kind of be there for you. And I think that strong leadership is very, very important at this point in time. Because like you said, when guys are going through things that are struggling, they can't really get away. They need to really lean on somebody, and strong leaders can be there and really make a difference. For guys going through this right now.
For sure, definitely. What's kind of been the talk? What's been the talk with guys? Is it
Yeah.
hard? Is it weird? What's been the toughest part about this? What's kind of been that consistent conversation?
Yeah, I think it's just, kind of having kind of like you said, just like a release, kind of a normal life, whether it's just going and hanging with other friends to, watch football or watch other college basketball games, watch NBA games. Like there's just it's kind of a weird feel. You're very you're either in your apartment or you're at the gym,
Hmm.
and that's pretty much it. So uh not a whole lot of they didn't get to travel to go home. Obviously, they played on Christmas Day, so not seeing any family is obviously very, very tough. For a lot of those guys, because usually that's an opportunity that for those guys to get home and see some family. So that is definitely another issue is not being able to see family, obviously for for health reasons for both the parents and for the guys. But yeah, I think those are two important things that it's very hard for my brother, especially. It's they're playing either at the gym or you're in your room, and that's pretty much it. That's kind of what I got from Eric and a lot of the guys on the Gophers too. So it's hard to not have those other hobbies or just watching other sports with other friends. It's kind of just changed those social interactions. That sometimes help alleviate any stress or anxiety that you got from sports.
Yeah, for sure. You talk a little bit about your bro a lot. I want to talk a little bit about obviously Matt as well and everything that's been going on with him. How are things going with Matt? Obviously, yeah, you a very storied program and a kid who's got a lot going for him coming out of high school.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very talented kid. You can obviously see his game has evolved and he's doing well this year. But I want to talk just you've been playing with him. The only visual I have is over team camp days. So you've been playing with him before any of these people across the country. You
Yeah.
knew what Rochester, Minnesota was. What's the best part of his game? One, two, three things. What really? Yeah, it might be something we haven't even seen, but why is it that obviously, you're his brother, but the dude's got games. Look at him as a scout. Again, let's put that scout hat on, but the family scout hat, because you know the little things. Like, what are the
Yeah.
things that's so much about Lil Bro's game?
Yeah, I think it's his ability to be a matchup nightmare for a lot of guys. So for him, he's got for a guy that if it's a very big guy, if you got a 7 footer who's 280 on him, his ability to drive those guys and use his footwork and skill to finish. And then he can also go down and really post some dudes up. Like they played Michigan State as well earlier this year, and he did a great job just going down to the block and just trying to go up and finish on guys. So I think that flexibility for him, being able to tag guys, and then also being able to shoot the ball at a 40% clip, like that's exactly what NBA guys are looking for, I guess, for him. Being able to shoot at his size, and then can you score in other ways if need be, and those are all bonuses for teams. So yeah, just trying to get those other aspects of his game much stronger, being able to score off the dribble, to create other ways, and kind of a little bit like Dan made, just making sure that you can create in a variety of ways for yourself, but that also in turn is going to create a variety of ways for you to play make for other people. So I think that's something that it was. We were very fortunate this summer to have a gym and a weight room for him, where a lot of guys weren't very fortunate to have that access. So he
Hmm.
he was able to make some jumps that a lot of people might not have been able to make. And yeah, it was good just to I didn't do as much of the actual working out. I was just more putting him through workouts and really defending him and trying to get under his skin a little bit and teach him some things that I've picked up on. And I think he's really taken that step a lot, like I saw Dan do, and it's very cool to see.
For sure. What were those matchups like early on? I know there were some one-on-one matchups early on before just getting under his.
Yeah.
Were they heated growing up, or what they look like? You're a basketball family. You said your dad coached you a lot. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so growing up, he was, I think, maybe when I was in fifth grade, he was pretty young, but he would always come with us to our basketball practices. He just loved being around the game. He would already have had practice earlier, and he would still come to practice with us. And I think it's something that he's always loved to be around. And my dad was able to coach him all the way up to seventh or to sixth grade. And I think he's always had a love for the game. He never played a little bit of baseball, but other than he's had much more of a passion from a young age with basketball. And I think it was just it was very cool to see the progression for him from middle school to going into high school, and then just seeing him continuously progress. And I think that was, I know that I talked a lot about the Louisville moment in my Gopher career, but I think the coolest thing in my basketball career is being able to play 2 full years with my brother. We were both starting. I think that was by far, it definitely was for my parents. I think they really appreciated that and really enjoyed that. But yeah, that was by far the coolest thing was getting to get and play with my bro.
No, for sure. I'm sure your parents were super excited. I'm sure they saved gas money. They didn't like a lot one there, but no, that's cool. I mean, shout out to your parents though. Like big props to your parents for what they've done, for getting you there, for getting 2 guys to play basketball Division I, coming from a city like Rochester, who I know you don't have a lot of guys that just go D1 like that. And you have 2 guys coming out the same family, as well as 2 guys. I mean, he's obviously doing well and great representation of the program there. You were probably one of the best representations of the program for the Gophers these past 4 years. So definitely give your parents their flowers for that one.
Yeah, and I will say my sister just recently committed to Lehigh, so they did a great job, great job with all of us. They got all 3 of us to they got the sister too, whole family. So yeah, it was, I appreciate them. They were at every AAU tournament. They were at every practice. We had for D1 Minnesota, we had every practice in the Twin Cities, and they made every drive, never complained about it or anything. So they were phenomenal with us and trying to give us the keys to make the most of our opportunities.
For sure. Let's talk a little bit, man. I know, and Matthew made the decision to go to Duke, and I respect that because I respect the decision of any player. Let's make that clear. That's their decision, so they need to make their decision. You decide to go to Minnesota, so let's talk about the M on your chest and playing for the hometown state. Let's just talk a bit about that support, man, because I feel like when you're from Minnesota, like I know like Minnesotans love Minnesotans and they love supporting, but let's really talk about the support you felt, because it's got to feel different really knowing like I'm really putting on for my entire state. It's like this at every university. There's only one of a few that's from that state. You know what I mean? They really take pride in it. Like, I wear this across the chest proudly, but this isn't in my blood as much as guys from Minnesota. So just talk about one, playing for the state, but just being around it and the support that they show in your home state.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different for here too, just because when you think about it, obviously Minnesota's now have 2, but only if has had 1 Division I school. So it's very, very, you're literally representing the whole state. Like if you go down to Texas, they've got like 100 D1 schools. Right. So it's not like you're not putting on for the whole state. But this for Minnesota, it's different. You're really putting on for everybody in your community. And I think you kind of really recognize that, growing up watching the Gophers, I think it just means something a little bit different than if you lived in California, went to a D1 school there, or in Texas or some other place. It feels a lot different, and you can really feel the passion of all the fans and how much they invest into our programs.
Right. And the support here is crazy. I mean, Minnesota sports loves Minnesota sports. Like it's hard to even explain. Like, I mean, it's not even in Mizzou. I think the idea of having that one school is huge here. It is in Missouri. Growing up in St. Louis, you're always torn. Like you want to be Mizzou because it's the state. You're in St. Louis. St. Louis is a Division I school, more than capable of winning as well. So it's like you always split them up. Or down in Iowa, below you got Iowa or Iowa State. They're always split, right? But with Minnesota, we are Gophers. This is Gopher Nation. This is Gopher country. This is a Big Ten country. So yes, definitely huge. And not just, I guess, the Gopher support, but I mean any conversations or anything with the Dunkers. So the Golden Dunkers, right? Just the booster club for the program. I mean,
Yeah.
what type of support or things did you appreciate just coming from them? I know it's tough, right? When you have practice and you're busy, you're doing a lot of stuff, but they just do so much, right? The Dunkers do so much for us while we're
Yeah.
there, and that's why it's so important for me to help and be a part of the club as much as I can. So just talk a little bit about the Golden Dunkers and what they really do for you, and maybe that you didn't even know they did for you and you found out after.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that they are unwavering in their support for the program, and they really care about us as individuals. I think a lot of people, Gopher fans are very passionate about what they see on the court, but the Golden Dunkers really invest in you as people. They want to know, kind of your story and what you're passionate about, and they want to get to know you. And I think that that's that's a different. They kind of reach that next level of connection with you, and you can really see that from talking to almost any of them, and it's crazy because you get that feel from them. Whether it's somebody who's been with the Golden Dunkers for a very long time or someone who's very recently joined the Golden Dunkers. So I think just the amount of support that they give, not only just from your play on the basketball court, but how they want to see you grow professionally. Just again, kind of invest in you as a person and just kind of getting to know you more. Yeah, I think that was one of the biggest things that I was at least kind of really surprised and kind of took away from every interaction that I've always had with them.
No, yeah, that's definitely something that I take away as well. And I think a lot of guys in there done. They really appreciate it. And they appreciate those relationships that they really got to tap into. And I think it's important
Right.
for recruits and for guys to understand that too when they're coming in, just how important it is. Because you can become really busy when you're practicing, when you're playing. But it's just super important to understand that. I think it's important for guys like us to go and have that conversation and tell those guys, like, hey, these are important
Yeah.
relationships as well, because it's important to hear from voices like ours.
Yeah, I think it's important for them, especially for guys that are, thinking about where they want to go to school, or some of the younger guys to really understand the impact that, people like the Golden Dunkers really, have on you, and how much they invest into not only you on the basketball court, but just invest in you, what you do in your life. And I think that, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that for guys like you and me, or some of the upperclassmen to, really that's another point that, I don't think a lot of other programs have that kind of investment just into your lives in general that the Golden Dunkers has.
Yeah, for sure. It's huge, and it just shows they care. And when you're 17, 18 years old, man, like when you don't even know, like you're coming from Rochester. You used to come to practice in the Twin Cities, but you drove right back down with your parents. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
coming from St. Louis, I was like, man, what is this city? So it's just important to have any type of support, and not always the support you see on the court, because those
Right.
relationships can get strained at times. So
Yeah.
it's definitely
Exactly.
it's definitely
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. I think, whether it was ups or downs, the Golden Dunkers were a lot like Coach P. They were never too high, but never too low, and they always, really uh, you know trusted the process, and always believed in us, not only as players but as people, that we were gonna give it our all, and try our best, and try to go win some games. But the support from them has always been unwavering, and I think that's something that you can really remember in times when things weren't as good, but also when times are going well.
Yeah, that's the type of stuff you remember. Like I like
Yeah.
remember those things because you definitely remember the people that weren't with you during that time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can't imagine during your time, right? We came in when social media was just hitting the streets, so
Yeah.
it's definitely tougher and wilder during these days. But just last few things here. So last one, just about kind of what's going on in your life. That's kind of what we're leading into. So first thing I want to touch on and just give you a chance to share if there's anything people can do to help with it. Your Players Trunk initiative with the Players Trunk team.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, man. What's going on with that? Anything else going on with there? Just
Yeah.
give a little description, really, what the Players Trunk is, and how people can help you.
Yes, it's really cool. It was started by a manager in Michigan, where he was a manager for the basketball team, and he saw how much gear all these players were getting, and he was like, "Wow, this is some really cool stuff." And I know that the supporters of the program would really love to get their hands on this stuff. And after some of those guys got finished at Michigan, he was like, hey, like if you want me to sell some of your gear, I'll do it. And it's something that Austin's really taken off to, you know, buy some gear off of you know, players from various D1 programs, and try to provide it as an opportunity for, you know, fans of all these programs to come here and you know, see all this gear from a lot of different schools. So he also got gear from Dupree earlier. You know, I think he's continuing to try and get other Gopher players in the past, and get some of that gear. So I think it's a really cool opportunity for um, you know, fans to feel connected to those players, and get some pretty cool gear out of it too. So yeah, I've put up, you know, quite a bit of gear that's already on there. I know some of the stuff is already sold out, but yeah, I think that you know, for Gopher fans, it'd be a cool opportunity to, you know, go look at my trunk, go look at Dupree's trunk. They got some pretty cool Gopher gear, and yeah, I'm hoping that, you know, some of the other guys that are former Gophers will put some stuff on there, because it's a cool opportunity to, you know, to you know, provide that connection to Gopher fans with some pretty cool gear, you know, because I know that you know this real well, that, you know, after your 4 years, you got a lot of stuff, and you don't need everything. So
You got so
you
much gear. You get so much.
yeah, yeah. So I think that's just the biggest thing, is it's a cool opportunity to kind of connect that with the fans for sure.
Yeah, it's so much. I just came back home from. I was in St. Louis for Christmas, and every time I go there, I forget about gear I gave my parents. My dad walked out with this hat. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like, I like that hat. Can I get it back? Like, I just,
Yeah.
you start getting so much from there. It's like, all right, let's give it off here. But no, that's huge. That's a dope thing. So how can they go buy this stuff from you? Do you have your link anywhere already in your bios, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so on my Instagram page, I've got I think it's my most recent picture. I've got the link in there, in that picture to go there. You can go to my trunk, and then you can scroll through, and on that website, on their main page, and they've got Dupree's trunk as well. So if you want to go find some cool Gopher gear, and go look through some stuff, yeah, I would totally recommend it. They did a great job taking care of me, and you know, letting me getting that all shipped out to them. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to support, you know, a good cause, and trying to, you know, really create that connection between players and the fans.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's huge. So we'll make sure to go check that out. I'll go look on that too, actually, because it was. I remember I looked at it and I saw you post. I was like, all right, let me look back into this. But it's a very dope idea and great.
Yeah,
It's a great concept.
I wish I came up with it.
Yeah, no, as you said, I was like, bro, literally, that's what went through my mind. I'm like, why did I come up with that already?
Yeah, I was like, why has nobody ever thought of this already? Like, we get so much stuff. It's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. That's crazy.
yeah, I don't know. It makes more sense for a manager to come up with this. It's like when like
Yeah,
you said, you just kind of, it's almost like that closure. It's like, all right, it's over. Like I don't even want to think about stuff related to it, but
right.
especially a manager, because they're everything. They keep the program running. They got to touch on every single piece of gear. That's why they were all my best
Yeah,
friends. So
that's right. That's right.
it's super important. Well, let's talk, man, about kind of what's going on next. What else is happening? What people can expect from you? I know you talked a little bit about it. So you're in the MBA program right now, alongside Andre Collins as well. But you know what's next? Talk to me just kind of about your thought process, and even maybe stemming back to a couple years ago. You know, when you started to really visualize kind of your career after basketball, life after hoops. You know, what's been that mindset? What's it look like? Because I think it's important for the older generation to kind of see where our mindset's at, but as well as guys that were in our position that know the ball is going to probably stop bouncing soon. But we want to utilize basketball and use it as a weapon to the best of our ability. So just tell me about what's next, and kind of what's been that thought process over the last week.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of going back, I came to Minnesota. I thought I wanted to do med school, and I figured out pretty quickly with basketball practice that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
So I ended up, you know, getting a degree in kinesiology. It was something that was really cool to me. It was, you know, a lot of exercise science, physiology, something that was really, you know, I got that kind of you know, that science feel, but I also, something very applicable with basketball. So getting to learn a lot about the body, and how all of it works. But then I ended up, you know, graduating in 3 years, and I started the HR program at Carlson, and reason I kind of went with that was, I'm a very like data driven person. Like I like messing around with Excel and numbers and all that stuff. So it was something that, between doing that and, the people aspect of it, I think that was one of the biggest drivers for me in doing that. And then I, ended up doing the HR and the MBA dual degree program. And I think, what I want to get out of that is, really understanding how to bring a lot of those HR concepts, the understanding people in business, and take that into business administration and business leadership. So I want to, yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm looking at. I'm still currently looking for a MBA internship this summer. I'm really open to any opportunities. I'm sending out applications all throughout winter break. So yeah, I'm just kind of looking for an internship this summer in business. Trying to whether it's finance or marketing or a lot of different areas. I'm totally open to a lot of opportunities. And yeah, I guess that's kind of the biggest thing is I'm really trying to get an internship with somewhere that I in a position where I get to understand something more about finance and marketing, really get a feel for what I want to do. Um, whether it's finance, marketing, strategy, whatever it may be, and then kind of move forward with that. But I want to just be somebody in the business world that understands people and what it takes to lead people. But also, the business is just like college athletics. It's very competitive, and I think that that's really needed to lead people. So yeah, I think that a lot of the things that I'm learning a lot of the more technical business things that I'm learning will really help me with that aspect of it. But being able to use the things that I've learned from my time with Minnesota has been something that will help me for the rest of my life, and that's something I will never ever regret. It's something that I've will always be proud to be associated with the Gophers and the Golden Dunkers and everyone involved. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunities I've got, and I think that this community in the state has done a great job at allowing me to use basketball to, like you said, use it as a weapon and use it to the best of my abilities.
No, yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and that's what Minnesota's for. That's what it's for.
Yeah,
I mean, since you had such a good answer, that was going to be it. But last thing on that, because it sounds like you and myself are probably the only two in the recent Gopher basketball this year finished in 3 years. So we finished
right.
early, and I know my experience and like what was hard about it for me. But I just want to talk to you a little bit about that balance and not just balancing it, but in a way, it's like, yo, let's like get it a little bit more. Like that's kind of you probably had that mindset at some point, like, oh, I can graduate in 3. Let's ramp it up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? When the advisor
yeah.
says that, like, let's ramp it up. What was the toughest, or I mean, what was the biggest thing about balancing that aspect of it while also not just on the court, but I think it's super important to have that social aspect, obviously, and with your teammates as well, too. So, like, for you to do that, go into HR with Carlson, things like that, what was the biggest struggle? What was the biggest thing you took away from trying to find that balance and excelling? Really, I would say in all 3 areas. It's like that,
Yeah.
all that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the hardest thing for a lot of athletes. I mean, I think for normal students it's easier because they're only balancing socially and school. So we've got a completely different schedule. And yeah, I think the my junior year was definitely my hardest year because that was the year I was trying to graduate after. So I worked out with my advisor back. It was all the way back in my sophomore year. He was like, "Yeah, we probably could graduate in 3, but we might have to step it up." And I was like, "All right, I'm ready to try and take on a new challenge. Let's go." And yeah, I think it was sometimes hard to not get too deep into one thing, whether it was just get too much into basketball, too much into school or socially. So I think the the pull that a lot of those different things had kind of kept me in the center and kept me balanced. The demand that basketball had really kind of reined in school and vice versa, and same thing with socially. But I think my teammates all coming back to my teammates was the biggest thing that really um, allowed me to have that balance. Because they were really great at if they knew I needed some space to study on the plane ride home or something, then they would give me that time. But if they knew I was in too deep into the books, they're like, hey. let's go out and go get something to eat. Let's go and we'll watch a football game or watch a basketball game. And yeah, I think that it all kind of comes back to my teammates and the support that I had that really kind of kept me sane going through my junior year, at least with the academic demand I had that year.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's definitely a tough thing. I salute you. I know it's hard. I know it's difficult trying to deal with the advisor in your schedule as well as your number one priority, which is the basketball
Right.
schedule and the practice
Yeah.
schedule. Especially kinesiology, they be having times like crazy. Then the back, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, no, that was the biggest thing. I shout out to my academic advisor, Kyle. He was great because he knew what Coach P was expecting. For times like, hey, this time is so off limits. He needs times. You needed time to get to practice and be able to get shots up before that time afterwards. So like not very. If it's gonna be night class, it's gotta be after this time. So yeah, my academic advisor did a great job. We planned it out from a very early point, but we were able to work it out and get it all set up. And yeah, no, I think he did a great job with that part for sure.
Yeah, no, that's huge, man. And congrats on that. Congrats on that. Well, I'll let you go here soon, man. Thanks. I want to say thank you though. Appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Gopher fans, you heard, and we didn't end it with that, but you heard is finishing up the NBA program soon here, looking for internships and things coming up this summer. So any recommendations or anything, ensure you reach out. Michael's pretty active on his social channels. I'm sure you can find it. I'm sure you can contact him in some way if you're hearing this. So make sure you reach out and just keep kind of this Gopher tradition going. Keep this Gopher tradition going. So, I mean, anything else we can do for you, man, before we kind of head out here?
No, I just want to say thank you to you for kind of setting this up and pushing this forward, and to Golden Dunkers for giving me this opportunity to kind of speak to a lot of the Gopher fans. It's kind of cool to kind of talk, at least talk. I've talked to my parents about about the Gopher games and stuff, about my past teams, the current team, but it's cool to kind of talk to somebody else that really understands this and get to talk about this current team, because there's a lot to look forward to, and I'm excited to see what Coach P and all these guys do this year. I'm excited for Thursday. We got to beat the Badgers.
Definitely, I'm excited too. And we'll keep this where it's at, but we might have to jump on later on the record and talk a little bit more about it, because I think a lot of fans definitely appreciate your analysis and your insight and the way to put the stuff. So that's huge. So I appreciate that, man. And again, tell your parents, tell your fam, tell everybody. You've done well. The Hurt family is in good ranks, I think, across a lot of names, across a lot of people across the state. Me, people from Minnesota. So salute to you guys. Salute to the whole fam. But I appreciate your time, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody, for listening today, and we will wrap today's episode up.